Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 2026-2027 Field Practicum Orientation for Kuiper College. The intent of this video is just to kind of give some acclimation and details about what the Field Practicum, or internship as sometimes we call it, entails for either the one semester that the students are doing it or the 2 semesters that some students are doing as well. So this is just, some introductory information. There'll be 2 parts, so get excited. All right. First of all, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of the supervisors who are spending their time and their energy during their workday to teach our students, to pour into them, to really show them the ropes of social work and help prepare them for social work practice. I know that the landscape of social services right now, there's not a lot of extra time. There's a lot of tasks assigned to people. So thank you so much for adding this on to your workload and really investing in the next generation of social workers. And also to our students, you've made it this far. You've put the hard work in to learn what social work is, why we do what we do, how we do what we do. And now this is your opportunity to really shine and to put into practice all of the information that we have filled your heads with for the past 3 years. So just to introduce myself, I am Professor Kelly Hoffman. I am the Director of Field Practicum. So I am the go-to person here at Kuiper for any internship questions or concerns. I also teach classes as well, but this is one of my other duties, is to kind of facilitate and run the whole practicum program. So like I said, this is orientation. So here we go. All right. One of the important things to know about the social work program at Kuiper College is that we teach students to approach social work through a generalist practice model. So really, essentially, there's 4 main components of what we call generalist social work practice. We look at it from the ecological systems perspective. People don't live in a silo. It's not just them. The whole world impacts them, their environment. If one thing in their environment goes askew, it can impact all the other things, like a domino effect. And so we really teach students that we can't look at behaviors, decisions, people situations through a very narrow lens. We have to look at the whole system. We also are very empowerment focused. And so we don't look at social work interactions through a deficit lens. Often, I think people see social work as, I have a problem, I need to fix it. We also have a lot of good things going on in your life, and we want to give you the skills and knowledge to empower you to be able to navigate the difficulties so you can thrive and live the life that you want to live. That kind of ties in with the strengths orientation and approach. We're always looking at, what do our clients, what do our communities, what do our whatever population we're working with, what skills do they have, not skills, strengths do they already inherently have, and how can we build on them? So that's very empowering. We're looking at the client being the expert in their situation. They know their situation, we're being invited in, and we want to build on the strengths they have. The generalist social work practice also has the multi-level approach. So the skills that we teach can be used at the individual and family level. It can be used as a groups level, communities level, internationally. And so the skills are really translatable, and we build on that in our curriculum by having the students start by taking individuals and families, and we take the skills from there, use them in groups, use them in communities, so on and so forth. And we really have a high emphasis on evidence-based practice. We can't just go with our gut and say, hey, this sounds great, I'm going to give it a try. We're really looking at, what does research say? What is known to be the best intervention or model of practice for this specific client, the specific situation, the specific diagnosis? And so we really value research and evidence-based approach. So it's important to know these, because when we go into creating our learning contracts, which we're going to talk about later, we're really looking at, how are the activities that we're doing in our internship demonstrating these 5 different things? How are we using them at every group level or every system level? How are we looking at client strengths? What are we using policy-wise or research-wise to actually equip and empower the work that we are doing? So it's kind of foundational technical stuff, but it's really the core of what we do at Kuiper College. I'm going to have to probably move my little screen. So we, within the generalist social work practice, we use a model or a method when working with all the different system levels. We call it our problem solving process. And so we teach the students that they start with engagement, which leads to assessment and the data collection piece. Then we start planning and assessing for maybe what the best course of action is. Then we implement the best course of action during the implementation. Then we evaluate, did this actually work, or do we have to circle back and try something new? And then we really like to talk about what does healthy termination of services look like, especially with vulnerable populations. And if people have engaged in social services frequently, there can be a lot of staff turnover, even just in their personal lives, people coming and going in their lives. So we want to model healthy termination and be able to set up our clients for success after the services end. So engagement, assessment, planning, implementation, evaluation, termination. All right, so again, I'm going to move my little screen. This is some of the logistics of what we're looking for during the internship. So I guess one of the biggest ones people always ask is, how many hours do I need? What does it look like as far as like time commitment? Students have to complete 400 hours of in-field experience. So this doesn't necessarily have to be face-to-face client interactions. This is any sort of work that they are doing for the agency. So if it's prepping materials for a lesson, researching resources that clients might need, meeting with clients, those different types of things have to add up to the 400 hours. Now, this group of students, half are doing what we call a block placement. So having all 400 hours in one semester, and the other half are doing a 2-semester placement where there's 200 hours each semester. So for the students who are doing the 2-semester internship, we can't accumulate more than 200 hours the first semester and then roll them over into the second semester. I really believe firmly in that. A lot of learning comes with the time and experience of being in the setting. So I like to have the balance of 200 in the first semester and then 200 second semester. So we're not having this lopsided of getting a bunch of hours and then missing out on some growth that might have occurred by me being physically like a calendar year longer in not calendar year, but calendar time in my internship setting. So students are welcome to accumulate more in the first semester and they can keep track of it. Some people or some grad schools, if students want to go to grad schools, will look at, you can put down how many hours you completed. So instead of saying, I completed a 400-hour internship, you can add up everything that you've done and say, oh, I've done a 424-hour internship. But for the sake of tracking hours, 200 each semester is what has to be met to reach the 400 goal. So for 2-semester placement students, that averages out to about 13 to 15 hours per week. If you're doing like 12 to 13, you're going to be low. If you're doing 15 to 16, you're going to be over. Strongly encourage students to shoot for the 15, 16 hours a week right off the bat if it works with their schedules and works with the agency, because we just never know what life is going to happen as the semester rolls on. There could be sicknesses. Weather can sometimes impact closures or ability to get into the internship. It could be car troubles. There could be programming changes. So the hours aren't available. So I think it's best practice to shoot higher at the beginning to just prepare for any unforeseen things that happen at the end of the semester. For block placement students, it's about 26 to 30 hours per week. Our semester is 15 weeks, and so that's kind of how I figured out the calculations. First day of class for us is August 31, so that is technically the start date of the semester. I know I've talked to some students individually and supervisors, and you might have started a week or so early just to kind of do orientation, get some of the hours in, totally fine. But our semester runs for first semester, September through mid-December, and then second semester is January through mid-April. We don't have specific days or hours that students have to be at their internship because I understand all agencies are different. Kind of depends on meetings, activities, all those fun things are. So schedules are based on what the student and the agency has agreed upon. This is not something where it has to be just between the hours of 8 and 5, Monday through Friday. If there's afternoon or evening hours or weekend hours, totally fine to utilize that to get your hours, but there always just has to be proper supervision. Students should not be left to fend for themselves without a supervision plan in place. I mentioned before the generalist practice. This is going to be reflected very well in our learning contracts. So we just want to make sure that we are encouraging students and providing opportunities to engage at all systems levels and really practice what the generalist practice model has been instilled in them. And then finally, supervision. Students need to receive an hour of supervision each week by either a MSW or BSW from accredited university, which honestly, I think every social work degree comes from pretty much an accredited place, but it's a caveat that I had to put into our accreditation paperwork. And they also have had to be practicing in the field for 2 years. So I've seen instances where students will be assigned what we call like 2 supervisors, a task supervisor, and then their social work supervisor. So a task supervisor might be someone who is working in their program and they're connecting with the student on daily activities, kind of being the day-to-day support, but they might not necessarily have the BSW or MSW. That is totally fine as long as they're still receiving like one-on-one supervision with another person who does hold their MSW or BSW, and also have that person be available for consult when needed. All right. So just, these are the assignments. So students also have to attend a practicum seminar once a week with me. It's just a time for students to meet, talk, kind of get that peer support and of navigating kind of their first foray into the social work field. We do have some assignments that they will have for that seminar class, which ties in to work that they are doing at their internship. So I've mentioned a couple times now their learning contract. That's the way that we evaluate students, both myself and the practicum supervisor, just to make sure that they are meeting the competencies that we have. We have the students complete an implicit bias training just to kind of really make sure they're exploring and discovering maybe some of those unconscious things that are occurring and how that might impact their interactions with their clients, with agencies, with their coworkers. I find that it's a very, very important part. So we go through a training on that. Students will also be asked to complete an agency analysis paper. And so this is just kind of more of that macro level of like, what does it take to run an agency? For students who are doing 2 semesters, that is a fall assignment. For block placements, obviously they have to complete them all in 1 semester. They'll also be completing weekly journals. And so this is a time for them to reflect on how things are going, just to be able to process and kind of engage in self-care. They turn those into me. If the supervisor thinks it'd be beneficial to also read them as well, that is something that can occur. But the assignment is just to have them turned into me. And it's also good for me because if I'm observing that there might be some issues or students might not be getting the activities that will be really beneficial, or if they're just really struggling, it kind of gives me some insight and be able to step in and make sure everything is running smoothly. They also complete case studies. So this is the winter or spring semester assignment where they find a client or a client system that they've worked with during the duration of their internship. And kind of show the students and show me how they walked through that generalist change process with clients. How did they engage them? How did they assess them? And so on and so forth. Obviously, students have to abide by confidentiality and change any sort of identifying information, but it's a way to kind of connect all of this textbook stuff that we've done in the classroom and how does it actually play out in real life. Students also have to find a research article that relates to the population that they work with at their agency, and then they present it to our class. Sometimes students will build that into the learning contract that they also present it to their internship site. Again, fall semester assignment, block placements have to do it. My screen is not showing me what this bottom one is, but I believe that it says a resource show and tell. So students have to identify a resource that they've used in their internship and then present it to the class. And then just talk about how they can evaluate if that's an effective resource. It's just a good way for students to build their toolbox of resources in the community. And again, kind of taking that practical of like, hey, here's what we're finding, here's what works, this is how we know it does or does not work. And then finally, I just wanted to go over the different roles in the field practicum experience. Again, this is kind of like logistical stuff, but it's just good to know for reference of kind of what the expectations are for all the parties involved. So we have the college as a whole, obviously because students are attending here and we're going to confer their degree. Then we have the practicum supervisor, which is the supervisor at the agency. We have the director of field practicum, which is me, and then obviously the students. So Kuiper College, one of our commitments in this whole practicum experience is we maintain our accredited social work program. We received full accreditation or reaccreditation, I think last year, which was a huge thing. It's good for 8 years. It's a beast of a project, but it's good to know that we are kosher with what the expectations are from CSWE, and all the social work education is valid and will be able to go towards receiving a BSW. And so we've kind of gone through this process already because all the students are connected with their internship, but my goodness, you can tell that the semester hasn't started yet because I'm still in summer brain. Kuiper College, it works. We have a screening process. I don't want to say screening process, but we have an interview process for students before they can come into the social work program to make sure it's a good fit. They understand the expectations. Students can't do their internship unless they're in the social work program. So at this point, all of the students have gone through it and have been accepted into the social work program. We also provide liability insurance, which I will give everybody a copy of at their internships at the start of the internship. This is just covering all liabilities. If something were to happen for the student, for the agency, we do hold insurance to kind of cover any accidentals and just to keep everyone safe. And then we have the practicum supervisor. So this is the SW or MSW on site at the agency. We're really looking for this person to provide orientation to the agency, kind of who the agency is, where their desk is, who they have to talk to, how to work the printer. That one always would get me at new jobs. I would always get very, very scared of the printer system. So just helping the student get acclimated and welcome and so they feel safe and secure to be able to do their internship. We're asking that the supervisor engages students in purposeful supervision. I know it can be hard with busy schedules and the demands of the job, but the more the students can receive intentional supervision on a consistent basis, the better the internship experience tends to be and the growth and confidence that students can walk away with. We're also looking for meaningful tasks to be assigned. I am totally for students sometimes making copies and doing some of the office work because it's part of how an agency runs, but really making sure that they are engaging in something that's purposeful, that meets both the students' learning objectives needs, but also benefits the agencies. The more variety of clients and situations that students can observe and be involved in, the kind of that breadth of internship, the depth of it really tends to grow. So I also encourage students to reach out and advocate for themselves for a variety of different assignments or experiences that they can take on. But it tends to make the internship just more well-rounded when students are able to engage in all systems and different activities. Kind of walking along the side of the student to help make sure they're integrating the knowledge that they work, to kind of connect those dots of like, hey, I learned this, here's how it's actually implemented in practice. And then encouraging students to participate in constructive feedback. You know, it can be difficult sometimes, but this is definitely part of that professional development of hearing things and growing from it, even if they're difficult conversations. And then what you can expect from me. I offer the practicum experience that meets all our needs. I've connected with all of you supervisors to make sure that the agencies are a good fit for students learning and that we're a good fit for you. I'm providing the orientation for supervisors and the students to kind of make sure everyone feels equipped to start the internship. I will be meeting with all of the internship supervisors and students 3 times during the course of their internships. So I will be setting up meeting times in September to come visit the sites. I like coming in person. If it happens to be on virtual, totally fine. But I love coming and seeing the work and meeting everybody. So I'll meet probably mid-September, end of September, just to kind of do a check-in to make sure everything is going good, see if there's any questions. I come back at the end of the first semester to do the mid-semester, the mid internship evaluation, and then one time again in the spring to do the final evaluation. If any needs arise, I obviously can come anytime or jump on a Zoom meeting to kind of just make sure everything is running smoothly. For block placement students, I come 3 times in one semester. So it's a little bit like, hey, Hoffman's here again. But it's, I don't know, it's fun and it's good. So I am also just a resource for students and to be a consult for the practicum supervisor. Really like to push professional development in internships. So if there's an issue that the students are having in their internship, really challenging them to advocate for themselves instead of having me step in and advocate for them. So really pushing students to have those conversations. But I'm obviously here if something escalates or if there's something that just needs to be resolved. I am the contact person and am happy to step in and kind of problem solve. And then I provide the weekly seminar class for the students. And then finally, we have the students. They know the code of ethics. They know the expectations of confidentiality. That's a non-negotiable. They have to adhere to that in their internship. Working with students to identify themselves as a professional member of the agency. They're not just the intern, but conducting themselves as a professional, as if this is their job, and that all the expectations and the professionalism that comes with that. Obviously, we're asking that they apply the principles of social work that they learned in the classroom to their internship, actively engaging in the evaluation process by doing self-evaluation and asking for feedback from their supervisor, and then working directly with their practicum supervisor in the event of any conflict or problem resolution that has to happen. So that was a lot of me talking, a lot of information. Don't need to retain this all. I think the key pieces to retain are the hours, the supervision piece, and then just making sure that activities that the students are engaging in are purposeful and benefit their education and the agency as well. So there will be a part 2 with some more logistics, but thank you for listening to part 1.